My name's Keith Sausedo. I was born in Vallejo, the son of Robert and Joan Sausedo. My father was class of 1946 here at John Swett, and his love of sport probably is the very reason why I became interested in basketball and sports in general. Oh, that was quite easy. I want to say roughly fourth grade, fifth grade, we started playing basketball. I know Paul and I did at Garrettson, and I honestly can't recall the format that we played in. It was just sporadic games maybe. It wasn't a regular set of opponents or whatever. It was just a brief exposure, and that accelerated with every successive grade, I want to say until seventh grade, when we were formally at the junior high level, when we did have a 18-game schedule and, played teams from all over the area. Eighth grade was similar, and it just accelerated all the way to high school. It varied. Like George said earlier, I was maybe one of the taller kids, so initially I might have started at center, and then as others passed me by, I would go back down to forward or guard. It was nothing was defined. It was pretty much, my background was all positions, really, so nothing was definitive. If you're talking about our final season, my senior year, 77-78, I think I knew we were going to be good, but there was a little bit of a concern because my junior year we had a good team. We turned things around mid-season, made the playoffs, ended up second in league, and we were battling it out, three-way tie for the championship, and fortunately we didn't get there, but we got to the playoffs. But anyway, we lost three key seniors that year to graduation, pretty much the front court of our team, the height, the rare situation where John Swett actually had some height. We had Leonard Buckley, who was about 6'6", Doug Gillette about 6'4", Wally Linville maybe 6'1", all frontline players. Two of them were starters. Wally was our sixth man. And so there was concerns coming into the senior year about how we would make up for that loss. I think I expected we would be good. There was never a particular goal in mind that, hey, we want to win the league this year or anything like that. George sort of hinted on it earlier when he was talking about it was just that moment. At the time, I'm summer leading into the season, we were playing summer league, we were training, playing virtually every day we could, whatever gyms we could find. And so it was a concerted effort to improve yourself, and you got to have 5 good individuals at least to be on a good team. Granted, you got a lot of teamwork and everything, but the thing I could control was my fitness, what I brought in there. And so I knew that certainly I would try to prepare myself individually for what was going to come forward during the season, and we would see how we would do.
Moments during that season?
Oh. Boy, it's like a highlight reel, really, if you think about it. I think overall we were 22-3 that year, and every loss we had, we could have won the game. I think the first loss was in non-league up at the St. Helena tournament against St. Helena, and they, very good team. I think his name's been mentioned before by some of the other people. Talk about Rick Rosenbrand. He was about a 6'5" center, good shooter, aggressive player, tough rebounder, and they had a couple other guys in their front court that were really good too. But bottom line is, it was the opening game of their tournament, and we had control of the game. I actually fished out the article not too long ago that we were ahead for like 28 of the 32 minutes of the game, and for whatever reason, we had a slow fourth quarter, and they came back to beat us by 2, and they went on to win the championship for that particular tournament, as well as the North Coast section later on in the year, while we went on to win the consolation championship of that tournament. But then we turned around, that tournament ended on a Saturday, and then we had a regularly scheduled game against St. Helena on, I believe, like the following Tuesday. And sure enough, we went back up there. Jeff had a real good game, and we, just like the first game, we jumped out ahead and steadily pulled away throughout the game, but this time they didn't come back, and we beat them. And so that, I wouldn't put any stock in vengeance or anything like that, but I think we proved over the course of how many quarters we played against St. Helena that we were better, even though they beat us at one time. So go around later on in the season, we lose to Justin Sienna up there late in the league season. By this time, we'd compiled a gaudy record. I think we had won like 16 straight games. And we had control of that game, too. And unfortunately, Paul missed a free throw later on. Could have increased the lead, I believe, to 3, maybe. And Justin came down and scored a basket. And it was a period, reading the article a little bit, there was maybe a timeout. We did have some time to do something, but and we took, but we just couldn't get a shot off to win the game. So that ended that. And then later on, we got into the section playoffs, and we lose in a semifinal game to Denair High School out from Merced County. And that game, I think we were ahead at halftime, and in the second quarter, we had shut them out for like 3 or 4 minutes and had taken up to a 6-point lead or something like that. And Denair, somehow, I didn't even know this, but I think the article I read said somebody on their team, they had a big 6'5" center, and he sunk a half-court shot to close the gap to 2. And but we came out in the third quarter, and probably our lowest output the whole year. I think it was only 6 points. And I'd love to see the shooting percentages. I don't know if I can give their defense credit, truly. They weren't super aggressive, but they were big. Big guys. They kept you out of the middle. If you missed a shot, largely they were going to get it. It was tough to offensive rebound against them. And we just hit a dead spot, and we couldn't. We did come back a little bit in the fourth quarter, but could never overcome the deficit, sadly, and that's how that ended. So I don't know. It is what it is, but all those, we were never soundly beaten that whole year, whereas every other year I played, you could clearly identify games where you were behind by 20 at halftime, 25, and you just couldn't make up the deficit. But the senior year, that never happened, not one time. Every game we lost, we could have easily won too. Yeah. Well, okay, our first game against Benicia, first round was over there. It may have been the second league game, I want to say. And every year I played against Benicia, freshman, sophomore, they always had very good teams, very good height, really good height. And they were just tough to overcome. It was a bad matchup for us, given that we weren't overly, blessed with height. So I think we struggled early on and slowly fell behind. And at one point, the deficit reached 10 points with about, I clearly remember this, 3.5 minutes left on the scoreboard. And I remember they had a guy at the free throw line. And I remember being a little tired. We're probably pressing, trying to do something to get the ball back because there's no shot clock. You know, they can stall. We have to foul. And I remember just grabbing my shorts and looking at the clock, and I'm seeing the situation there. We're down 10 with like 3.5 minutes to go. And then just all these thoughts came to me instantly. It was, and one most notable was that I wanted to win one game in that gym, because as a freshman, they had an unbeaten team, one of their best teams in their school history, and they trounced us both times. And sophomore year, they weren't quite as good, but they had remnants from that first team. And so they were almost equally as impressive, and they whacked us pretty good twice again. Go to my junior year, we were finally better than they are, okay? First time we play them, we whip them here really bad. And I remember how much that was relished, because, you know, they were a big rival. And when George was playing, I remember seeing Benicia play John Swett. It was a big rivalry. So it was fun to absorb that and be a part of it yourself. So then we come to the second round. We're in a chase with Vanden for first place, and we lose to Benicia on a last-second follow shot. And so, doggone it. So, you know, our best chance to win over there, up to that point anyway, went away. So anyway, fast forward to the senior year. You know, it's 3.5 minutes left. I realized, you're going to lose here again, you know? And it's like just a insipid thought that was so bitter for me to accept, and it just enraged me at that moment. You know, let's do something about it, you know? And so it just set a spark into me personally anyway, and I think it shot through everybody. Fortunately, the guy misses the free throw, and boom, we take off. I remember getting the rebound, went down, and it's time's wasting. We got it. I'm not going to look to pass. I'm going up. So I went up. It was probably a three-pointer these days, but it went in. And then I've got it written down somewhere using my recollections and some of Mark Cox's been able to resurrect what happened. But thanks to their turnovers and their missing front ends of one-on-ones, we're able to catch them. And Jeff Roldy, I think he's going to be here next week. We've got the ball. We're down 2, I think. And I don't know who shoots it, but Roldy rebounds it and goes back up and makes it. And some guy's on his back, and it's the and one. And so we're going to go ahead now if he makes the free throw. But knowing Jeff isn't the greatest of free throwers, I knew his tendency was to miss short. I just remember Myron had us pair up in practices all the time, shooting free throws, shoot 10 each, whatever. Shooting with Jeff, I'd always see him short, off the back, and bouncing right back in front of the rim. So I assumed this is what's going to happen, and he's going to miss this. And it's like, I don't know how much, it's under a minute left. We got to get the ball. This has got to go in. And so while he's dribbling the ball, ready to take his shot, I'm sizing up the guy next to me. It's like, I got to get into the lane before him and get airborne and just try to intercept this ball wherever it is. And it's going to go in. And sure enough, I don't know how it happened, but he missed it just like I expected. And I leaped up to try to be on one side of the rim or the other, depending on wherever it kicked. And it, a little bit to the right, I think, or I don't know, to the left, actually, and brought my hands together and just sort of stuffed it back in. And all of a sudden, we're ahead. And that was just an electric moment, really, to catch our hated rival, I guess, at the time, like under those circumstances, and to pull ahead of them. And Benicia just, they couldn't score after that. Even though we got the lead, it's a little fuzzy what happened, but they lose the ball again, and their coach, Pete Jones, he just became unglued after just seeing, a sure victory go away. And so he got a couple technical fouls. I think got thrown out, and so I got to shoot the technical free throws, and so that really padded our lead. And we actually had a 10-point lead. We turned like a 20-point swing in 3.5 minutes. It's like staggering if you think about it. And we ended up winning the game by 8 points, I think. And that was quite a thrill to get a win in that gym against them. So, yeah, that's pretty dramatic. I knew his background as a former Cal player, and how well regarded he was. When I was in grade school, that's when I first started coming to watch John Swett play. And when George was a senior, I think that's the first year I came to this gym to watch basketball. And after George left, George's brother Newell played for Myron. And Myron came in to replace Lou Signer for Newell's junior year. And they had very good teams for, I believe, 2 straight years. Well, actually, 1 more year, where they, I think, you guys won second place 3 years in a row, I believe, 67, 68, and 69. And Myron was coach for 2 of those. And as a kid, being a local, my dad, he would take us here, and so we would see it. So I knew who Myron was then, and my dad was telling me his background. So yeah, I knew about Myron. And he was a commanding presence, too, being about 6'6", and big guy. He knew what he was doing. And it was obvious. And I think I was quite fortunate to have played here for him 4 years. And I think myself and Paul are maybe the only ones who had more than 2 years under Myron. And so that was a huge benefit to us. Just his fundamental approach to the game, the way we structured our defense. I remember Myron was a big fan of Bobby Knight and Indiana University, and they had a training film that, I don't know if Paul remembers this or not, but one of the first practices we'd see, Myron would show us this film. And it was the Indiana Hoosiers, just how defensive fundamentals were done. And so everything we did defensively was based upon what they did. And at the time, they were the dominant college team in the land. And so, this was like high-end information that Myron was passing along. And he was the opposite of what I'm hearing about Lou Signer as far as offensively. He was patterned to some extent, but he would give us the green light too. And he liked to play fast. And I think that played into what we all like too. We like to play fast too, which is staggering to think of how much we'd scored then without a three-point line, without the shot clock. But if you recall the practices we had here, a lot of the stuff was 3-on-2 continuous drill we did. We had a 2-on-1 continuous drill where it's just nonstop action, and you have to create or do something to make a shot, or you're going live. Okay, we went live a lot, and that he recognized the strength that we had. We were blessed with a number of good shooters, and Myron recognized that and took advantage of that. Well, that was totally unexpected for me. The previous year.
Let's start again. Say.
Okay, yeah, I came to the varsity as a freshman, expecting to play with the freshman team. And I remember the first day of tryouts, I think everybody was blended together for whatever reason, and so everybody was here. I remember sitting right down low there, and Myron was up high up here, and he came down and wanted to talk to me, and so he took me up about 5 or 6 rows, and he told me that he wanted me to play varsity. And I remember being shocked by that, and actually a little disappointed because I had so much enjoyed the previous year in 8th grade when we had a really good team, and I wanted to play with those guys again, and I was somewhat reluctant to do it. But, I quickly became obvious, yeah, you got to do this. So it was a bit of a challenge at first, but I want to say we're very fortunate. That particular class, well, okay, I was a freshman. The seniors that year were Paul's brother Mark, Larry DeLege, Chris Head, Dave Padilla, and Ray Bryant. And those guys had been part of a very good team the previous year. They didn't win league. I guess they got 3rd. But they had a good esprit de corps among those guys. They were disciplined. Don't get me wrong, they enjoyed having fun too, but they'd put that aside, and they were definitely for the betterment of the team. And I was the beneficiary of their goodwill. And they embraced me almost immediately, and I think just playing hard and doing things the right way, they accepted you based upon that. It was obvious, okay, this kid can play, he can help us out, you're part of us, let's go. And yeah, it was quite a jump in status, I want to say, for myself, because coming in as freshmen, early on in September, you're walking down the halls, all the seniors are hanging out in the middle, and they're pushing you around and, giving you all this stuff. And all of a sudden, a couple months later, I'm on the varsity team, and now I'm hanging out with them. It's a different circumstance. And so it helped me vault some hurdles that maybe others might have had to go through. Oh, no question. And it's not just because, we won a championship my last year. We won the second my junior year. But I treasure the freshman year just as much, just because of the support that those upperclassmen provided and the direction. They instilled in me, leadership qualities and discipline and things that I carried with me in my life. And so, yeah, I just because that team finished last by my senior year, we were first, I don't hold them with less esteem. I went to college, Contra Costa College, played there, and had some injuries, and then ultimately went to Davis, had a brief redshirt season there, and didn't play anymore after that at the collegiate level. I did have some eligibility, but I just wanted to finish, get my degree. So I got that, and then after a brief period, I did go back to school and got a second degree in engineering, and I've had a career in civil engineering for 35 years now. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a regret, but I can't help but think if somehow we were so close to being perfect, and what an elite level that is to achieve, and we were so close to it. And in hindsight, I don't think it would have made any difference, but I almost wish that we would have told ourselves before the season started, hey guys, we're going to have a good one here this year. Let's do everything. Let's go unbeaten. You know, let's have that on the table before we go forward. I don't know if it made a difference or not. At the end of the day, I suppose it doesn't matter, but, you know, we were right there. And just being so close to perfection is tantalizing. Like I said, I think I knew we'd be good, but I didn't know how good. And the thing that unnerved me the most, I think, was losing that height that we had. Because that was, John Swett seems to have a history of not having that many tall guys. And to lose them after just 1 year was a little bit traumatic. And so, yeah, we got to see what we can do. But I remember the first game against De Anza, we fell behind right away. But then you come in and you just knife through the defense as you casually did, and skillfully too, and just made a layup. And I remember thinking to myself right then, yeah, we're going to be all right. And we just steamrolled them from that point on. So I knew we were going to be good after we blew them out right away. So, yeah. Oh, that, yeah, he's gone. Oh, no, that, yeah. Yeah, it was much more difficult playing.
Start with.
Yeah, it was easier to play against our regular high school competition than it was to go up against George and Newell and Art during the summer at Garrettson or any other night during the week. We were always playing against the older guys, and that really, I thought, definitely gave us an advantage, if not mentally, physically as well, I would think, because you got to hold your own pretty good against grown men, you know, when you're 18, 17 years old. And I think that gave us an advantage. I'm not certain if the other high school teams had that sort of exposure. No, there wasn't. I was somewhat aware. That particular year, I didn't see them play, but the 67-68 team I did, and there was several remnants from the 67 team, including George, that were on the 68 team, 67-68 team, and yeah, I sat here and saw them. I think it was the old Sugar City tournament. There used to be a 4-team tournament that was played here, and I think that particular game in 67, 68, Georgia's team was playing against Benicia High, and they had a gaudy team that year, their best team in their school history. I think they were like 28-2, several college players on their team, but John Swett played them really tough and lost a close game, but I clearly remember that, and it just, the excitement, packed gym, yeah, so I was aware of their prowess. Not really. I was just interested in winning, and working hard and towards that goal. I was like this, you know, I never thought, ooh, this is stressful, or I'm not up to this, or anything like that. The goal was up here, and so whatever would steer us toward that was what I was going to do. So I didn't feel any added pressure or anything like that. Boy, I never considered that or had thought about it. I knew they were good, and I was just talking to Keith Hunter about this. It's just sort of a matter of perspective. When I was little and watching George out there, they looked so huge and potent offensively and physically. When you're little, you don't see yourself being able to do that maybe in your future. And so, I don't know, we never had the benefit of seeing them during their year. You know, they may have been able to see us, but I don't know. Everybody was pretty good, I think. They were really good. We were really good. And it's just been a blessing to be part of that. It was, I don't know, it's sort of a two-edged sword. I think and this is one thing I wondered about some of the Vanden athletes, for example. I know as good as they were, a lot of their guys went multiple sports. And when they're out there during football getting beat up for that, I'm just wondering how that's going to help them for basketball season when that comes around. They may have injuries, whatever, and while they're getting beat up, I'm practicing basketball, so I'm more focused on that sport. That may, I don't know. Yeah, I played golf 4 years, but that was definitely a second sport, I would say, and I did track also. And that was a spring sport, but that was only sort of a support role. Ed Duman at the time was trying to get bodies out there, and so he'd ask me, hey, I'll do whatever you want. And we'd make it up as we go, and provided there was not a conflict with a golf match or something, I would help them out. But my primary focus was basketball. That was the sport I loved and really pursued with vigor. So, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying to compile all that as we speak. This has really triggered sort of a resurrection, I guess, of sorts. We've all been pretty quiet about this over time, and which maybe part of that is being humble, but then at one point it's like, wait a minute, this school hasn't had a basketball champion in 47 years. We were the last ones, and that means something. I think it's time to rekindle that a little bit and compile the information that we have so we can pass it along to somebody or record it. It's definitely worth it. We'll have to see him. Yeah, we could probably beat him. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how they do. I'll take an interest in following them, I think, and hoping that somehow they can win a championship maybe and be the first team in 47 years to do it. Yeah, against Athenian we could have, for sure. Oh, he got in a fight there? I can't wait to hear about that one. So I don't remember that, but I'm eager to hear it. Well, then maybe he needed a Roldy. He'd be the guy for that. Well, we got to give a shout out to Jeff Roldy right now, because looking back at the year we had 77, 78, that was actually one of the low points was when we lost him, when he had that broken leg. I just think our camaraderie and esprit de corps was so good that all of a sudden we got, he wasn't a starter, but he was like our sixth man, seventh man, key guy. And to lose him in that fashion was pretty traumatic for a lot of us. And I remember going into the next game, I think it was up at Dixon without him, and it's like, wow, you know, we don't have Jeff this along. It's just like a security blanket. You know, he was our bruiser, our guy who could get the tough rebound. Who could, if the other team had a big guy, or big, strong, brawny guy, Jeff Aroldi was the guy to put out there to defend that guy. And getting back to that one loss against Denair, boy, we could have used Jeff Aroldi that night. There's no question about it. Yeah, he absolutely was. And I can't speak highly enough of him as an individual, too. His toughness was here, but on the flip side of it, his goodwill and general personality was up here, too. And he was just a terrific teammate and a friend that you wanted, if you're going to go to war, you want him alongside you. Yeah. And in fact, after he broke that leg, I think he was in the hospital for a week maybe or more, several days. And I don't think he returned to our sideline until we played Vanden here the second time. And I remember that was an inspirational lift for us to see him there. And I've got pictures of that. So I'll have to try to dredge those up. Well, I just got to thank you, and Steve's left, but everybody for putting this together. I think it's wonderful, and I keep hearing rumors of a reunion of sorts in April, and it'd be great to get everybody together regardless of what year they played. And we were all blessed, I think, to have Lou Signer as coach, to have Myron Erickson as coach, and to have a community like we had here supporting us. And so I look forward to seeing those elements again in April. Oh, I think it was great. Keith Hunter here still? I remember, this sort of brings it all together. Justin Sienna, they came down here one year with their radio station, KVON, I remember it right now, 1440 AM. They brought their banner, they put it up there, and I think this is our junior year. And I think Keith's dad was listening to the game on the radio, and he told me later on that, boy, that sounds exciting. I'm just going to drive down and watch the game. And so he came down here just by listening to that and watched us smack them good that night. So, yeah, that was I relished that game. That's another story. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we had a big rivalry with them. In fact, I did drag up a Napa Register article from that very game where they brought their radio station down here, and their coach was a guy named Dietz Carr for that 1 year. He whined to no end after we beat them that game, and blaming the gym, blaming the referees. We were beating up his team, and just one excuse after another. And yeah. All right. Thanks.